All right, episode 34 here, Off the Edge. Jake Ellenbogen, Cameron Lynch coming at you, whether it's in your living room, on your phone, on the bus, wherever. We are here, and we are going to provide you, to our best of our ability, the NFC South preview, because we are getting closer to the 2023 season. We want to make sure you guys have all the previews. We did the NFC West, the AFC West. We did the NFC East and the AFC East. We just did the AFC South in our last week's show. Our NFC South, we're now coming at you. And then we'll have one more to go. One more divisional crop, of course. You have the AFC and the NFC North. We'll wrap it up there. But yeah, Cam, how you doing, man?
Man, all is well. We're talking the Buccaneers. We're talking about NFC South. Played in this division for 3 years, so I got a couple stories, Jake. I got some stuff to get off my chest. I'm not gonna favor my team, the Buccaneers, too much, right? I'm gonna be fair in it, but I'm gonna share some good stories, and I'm excited to dive in. It's like we talk about Rams stuff, like it gets you a little fired up.
Yeah, and I think there's some things that like grind your gears a little bit that I think we're going to get into, for lack of a better term. You know what else we're going to get into? That Bet Online is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code Bleav to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Cam, we also have Underdog Fantasy.
Ooh.
And if you want to play some fantasy football with us this August and beyond, because technically I always forget to mention this, but you can do the weekly fantasy football. You can do weekly. You can do like a game base. So say we get really into a certain game, you could draft players. Like maybe you get 4 players together. You draft from the 2 teams for that game.
Like
gives you something to watch, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Like just in case, you run into the trouble of having to watch like the Browns and like, I don't know, like the Cardinals. And it's like, well, Kyler's not playing and I don't really like Deshaun Watson. So like, what am I going to do here? And it's like, you just go through it and you're like, oh, cool. Like, I guess tonight I'm rooting for James Conner. Like, he's my dad. Like, so.
or you can do a Thursday night, prime time games with Amazon Prime. I like that, Jake. Maybe we kind of throw in some fantasy football Thursday nights. You know what I mean? You mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, we can have a lot of fun with that. So the possibilities are endless. So you have to hit that Underdog Fantasy, the promo code. The link is in the description, whether you're watching it or listening to it on audio format. In the description, you will see our link. Sign up today. Off the Edge is your code. You'll receive 100% deposit match up to $100 if you use that code at sign up. And we look forward to seeing you on there.
Yeah,
it should be a lot of fun. We'll be using it throughout the year. So
come get smoked.
Yeah.
We plan to dominate, by the way, Jake. We plan to dominate fantasy football. So people who are just kind of
hell yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know that we have the pick 'em option, which I'll probably be using, but I plan to win, Jake. We plan to win here.
Yeah. You can use the pick 'em option if you think like, I don't know, like Kyler Murray does end up playing and say his, higher or lower is at like 35.5. If you think he's going to go over that, then you pick higher. If you think he's going to go lower, you pick lower. And so it's a cool little thing there. There are just so many different ways to play fantasy football now. So, big thank you to Underdog Fantasy. Again, promo code Off the Edge. Let's get into it. Cam, 1 through 4. Are you ready for this? NFC South standings. We got the Carolina Panthers with rookie quarterback Bryce Young at number 1. Yeah. Number 2, the New Orleans Saints with brand new quarterback Derek Carr. Number 3, the Atlanta Falcons finishing 3rd with Desmond Ridder. And 4th, the Buccaneers, your Buccaneers, with Baker Mayfield finishing last. Where do you have yours?
That's cold.
It's not a knock on Baker, but we'll get into it more. But what is your ranking looking like?
That's cold. And to caveat the fans, we cover the Rams as well. Bleav in Rams. I'm sure the folks who do follow us know. But if you're new, we cover the Rams, and Baker was with the Rams last year. We went through a lot of pain when he first landed on the team, it was joy, but then after that, a little bit of pain. So we kind of know a little bit about Baker. Hopefully, he's able to revive his career. I'm actually here in Tampa myself, and I can hear the Baker chants out the window. Kyle Trask, a little,
definitely not. There are definitely not Kyle Trask chants going on. They're not like Trask. They're like, don't play Trask. Don't play Trask. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll dive into that. I think Trask he went to the University of Florida, definitely a business move, but we'll dive into that a little bit later. My number one, you mentioned it, the Panthers as well. I think you said it. It was a hot take. You were like, the Panthers are going to win this division. I Bleav it just watching that growth. Second, Jake, I'm going to go the Falcons. And I'm going to say not Desmond Ridder, but I'm going to say Taylor Heineke, Georgia guy. I like Taylor leading that football team at one point, Bijan as well. Next, I'm going to go the Buccaneers. Can't put my dogs in last, Jake. So Baker, hopefully you make it happen. I know, what is this fan base? The Baker Bros or the Baker Buds?
Baker Bros. I think that sounds familiar.
Baker Bros.
Baker Buds.
Hey, Baker.
The Baker Boys.
The Baker dudes. Yeah. No.
Baker dudes.
No disrespect, because the Baker Bros, they show love our podcast when I think Baker went to the Rams. So.
Oh, did they ever? Did they ever?
Yeah. So respect, Baker Bros.
Yes.
I'm here in Tampa, so if I see you around, let's holler. But last, Jake, I got the New Orleans Saints. I think, the things that have been going on with Sean Payton, the character there, just from my experience playing the Saints, respect them, but I'm going to have to put them in last, Jake. Hopefully they do well, but I don't think they'll do well in this division. I think they'll be last. I got the Buccaneers ahead of them.
All right, so we disagree on the Saints, but let's start with the Bucs. I got them in fourth. You got them in third?
Got him in third, Jake. Yep.
All right, so you got him in third. So let's start with the Buccaneers, right? Offense, there's still the weapons left over from the Tom Brady era. You still have Mike Evans. You still have Chris Godwin. These are guys that you practiced around. You know what they can be. They still have Russell Gage, who Tom Brady got to come over. Trey Palmer, who fell in the draft, somebody that I think there were a lot of analysts that thought he would go higher. They got him in the 6th round, potentially a steal there. Kurt Warner's son, Cade Warner, is in that, UDFA. Rakim Jarrett. I really liked him out of Maryland, so he's a name to look out for. You got at tight end, Cade Otton, rookie last year, played a decent amount. Payne Durham, and then you have your running backs, which you know very well because Sean Tucker is in that crop. A guy who, he kind of got snubbed throughout the process because of the injury. Yeah. But hey, you were an undrafted rookie free agent, and in some aspects, it is better to be an undrafted rookie free agent because you get to choose where you go.
Yep.
And Sean Tucker probably, I would if I was Sean Tucker. He looked at this running back room. He's like, yeah, Chase Edmonds, he's good, right? Keyshawn Vaughn, he's got some talent, but we haven't really seen a lot. Patrick Laird, I'm not scared of at all. Ronnie Brown, the other UDFA, isn't Ronnie Brown from years past. And Rachaad White is really the one hurdle that you have to get over because he is a hell of a football player. But Sean Tucker could lead this running back room down the road. And so I definitely see why he signed there. In addition to that, they have Baker Mayfield, and we joked about Kyle Trask. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if John Wolford beat out Kyle Trask for the number 2 quarterback job. I didn't like Kyle Trask coming out of college. I just didn't see it, and he was a 2nd rounder. But hey, he might end up being something. One thing I got to say, though, Cam, is that if we're going with sleepers, I got to go with my top 10 safety that no one is talking about nearly enough. Ryan Neal, who signed with them in the offseason. He made his presence known in Seattle when Jamal Adams came, down with an injury, and they really needed somebody to step up. Ryan Neal stepped right in. He's going to be playing alongside Antoine Winfield. He'll be playing with Zion McCollum, who I'm very excited about. 5th rounder they drafted, out of I totally butchered the college there. But anyway, his brother also was there too, Tristan McCollum, Sam Houston State, I Bleav. So, I really like Zion McCollum. I'm excited about his season. I think he's going to play in the slot. I also am very excited about Jamel Dean, who, he signed long-term. He's one of the best tackling corners in the league, but I mean, he was in my honorable mention to be in that top 10. And then you have Carlton Davis, who you and I have talked at length about. Very, very good corner. You've been around a lot of these guys, so you know hands-on. You talk about Shaq Barrett, who's ready to get back out there, after what has been an awful offseason for him, losing his child, which, prayers out to him and his family. But, a down year last year, and I think he's really just ready to get back to football, game back to where he was when they signed him to that deal. Still a hell of a football player. You have Levante David. Obviously, I don't have to tell you about him. He's one of the best linebackers in all of football. Devin White, I don't know what the deal is there. I thought he would have already been traded. Maybe they're just going to, roll with him. And then you have Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who is always, interesting, coming off that line of scrimmage. Kalijah Cansey, who they went out and added with Vita Vea and Greg Gaines. This is not a horrible team. The offensive line is going to give Baker some time. They got Filer, they got Jensen, Cody Malk, who I love Cody Malk. Luke.
Shout out to the Redheads.
Yeah, it's like Luke Godke, and then of course Tristan Wirfs, who's one of the best tackles in all of football. It's not a bad roster. It's not. I just think that it really comes down to Baker Mayfield, and even if Baker's solid, like, how good is this team really going to be? So I had them in fourth, Cam. I might be disrespecting them a little bit, but I also think the problem is, like, the NFC South, to me, I look at the Panthers division and everyone else. So I can't stress enough, when I have the Buccaneers at 4, the Falcons at 3, and the Saints at 2, I mean, that could be like a game apart from each other. That is going to be a dogfight. So
that's what I have. I like it. I think it will be a dogfight, Jake. As you know, each game is won by 3 or so points. So I think when it comes to the Buccaneers, they're going to have to win games on special teams, Jake. The offense is going to do okay. The defense is going to have to really push this team forward. But on special teams, Jake, all the extra points, all the field goals, we know Robert Aguayo, when he was at the Buccaneers, field goal nightmare. And so let's kind of get past that. Let's make sure our special teams are clicking on all cylinders here. For the Buccaneers. And like you mentioned, just the quarterback position, I do feel, just being in this area, this space, I never liked a quarterback competition going to the season, Jay, because it's like, who's our quarterback? Then it's like, okay, what's our identity? And then, there's a lot of questions to ask. So I would like them to figure that out, I think, sooner than later. I know we're going to have some preseason games, but let's just go with Baker. Let's just call it a day. Baker, you lead this team. Just kind of hearing some of the reports from Chris Godwin and different people like that. They're like, Baker has the juice. He has the confidence. He has everything that you need. And Kyle is more chill, more, he's more laid back. I think Baker just throws too many interceptions in practice. But I think Baker needs to go ahead and take this team, run with it, the Baker Bros, and go ahead and ball out. Former number 1 overall pick, he's going to have to show that. The Buccaneers are used to having number 1 overall picks. With Jameis scored a lot of touchdowns, we threw a lot of interceptions. So hopefully, how things go with Baker, hopefully it's a little bit different. I'm praying on it, Jake. I'm praying on it. But the Buccaneers, like I said, I got them going 3rd in the division. I got the Saints in 4th. You think about the defense, you think about Levante David, I think Devin White, and you talk about people who are going to emerge this year, reemerge, I would say, Devin White and Shaq Barrett. I'm gonna need those guys to step back up. And Shaq Barrett, how many sacks did he have? 1 year, maybe like 18 or something crazy like that. Like, he was leading the league in sacks. He had a crazy amount of sacks. So I want him to reemerge. I want Devin White. You think about that Super Bowl year. I mean, at one point I was like, wait, is he better than Levante? But then I was like, hold on, let me pump the brakes here. The reason why he's so good is because of Levante, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But he was playing like he was the best linebacker in the league. Todd Bowles was like, yeah, this guy's the best tackler that I've seen. And it's a caveat. Let's keep it 100. Levante David is. But I want to see Devin White get back up to that. I know Kalijah Cansey, Jake, we talk about his ability. We talked about like the Aaron Donald thing. We don't want to compare, but he's a beast. I know he hurt his calf in practice. Out here in Tampa, Jake, it's about 96. So cramps, muscle contusions, I know that's going to happen a lot. But the Buccaneers, come on with it. We got to get over the Saints. The Buccaneers have to get over the Saints. That's why I have them at number 3. But they're going to have to figure out their quarterback situation, Jake, going into the season. I never liked it, and hopefully they figure that out beforehand.
So do we want to do the Falcons or the Saints next? Do you have them last? I have the Falcons third. You have them second. How do you want to do this?
Let's go this. Let's get over with the Saints. Let's just.
He's so done. The Saints fans are going to hate us. I have no issue against the Saints. I have an issue with Sean Payton, which we hashed over in that previous episode. I think he's a slime ball. I'll say it again in case anyone didn't hear me. Think he's a slime ball. But I understand he's like royalty for Saints fans, so not trying to do anything there. Dennis Allen, I do like, by the way. I have respect for Dennis Allen. Mm-hmm. And I like what the Saints did. First off, I thought going out and getting Breesy and Foskey for that defense, adding more to that defense, getting Saldiveri in the trenches there. A.T. Perry in the 6th round was just an awesome pickup, in my opinion, one of the best wide receivers in the class. And I love that they went out and got Derek Carr, because I think Derek Carr, with some weapons, some protection, a defense, getting out of Vegas with that Raiders organization, I think it's really going to help him out. And I think that's what they've been missing. Now, the problem is, I have the Saints too, and you have them last. I look at the Saints and I'm like, Chris Olave can help you all over the top. He's turning into one of the young rising star wide receivers in the league. Michael Thomas, as long as he plays, we know what he can do. That 2019 season, he had like 100 something catch. He was insane. Yeah. Rashid Shaheed, excuse me, is somebody that I think is you have to look out for him. Can play in the slot, can test the deep ball as well. So you have two field stretchers in him and Olave. You have A.T. Perry, who I really like. They got Brian Edwards. They got Traquan Smith, James Washington. So they got some guys there. Keith Kirkwood as well, who they like. To me, I'm looking at this right now, as well as Kawan Baker, 7th rounder from 2021. I'm looking at this right now as, when you look at Chris Olave, if he continues to take those steps forward into being an elite receiver, and Michael Thomas, you get like everything you're expecting out of him, on top of the fact that you have Alvin Kamara whenever he is able to play, Kendre Miller, who you and I liked coming out of the draft. They got Benjamin. They got Jamal Williams, who lived in the end zone last year. It's pretty much all he did. Yeah. He just plowed his way in the end zone. That's a lot for Derek Carr. Yeah. And then you have the defense, Cam, where you're talking about a Colin Saunders, Nathan Shepard, Carl Granderson. You go out and you add Tano Passanio. You have Cameron Jordan. So they got bodies in the interior. You got Pete Werner. You got Demario Davis, who we've talked about at length. Just a fantastic linebacker, has only gotten better with age. Zach Bond, you might have forgotten about him. Really important 3rd round pick in the 2020 class. And then you have Alontae Taylor, who I thought had a good year last year. You have Marshawn Lattimore, one of the better corners in football. Bradley Roby in the slot. You got Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu, who I think people don't quite realize. Obviously, if we're talking to Saints fans right now, they know. But people don't quite realize Tyrann Mathieu is still one of the best safeties in all of football. He is the Honey Badger. He is him. And he hasn't fallen off just because you think he's supposed to by now.
Yeah, no, I agree, Jake. You talk about that defensive lineup. You have not only leaders of the Saints, but you got leaders of the entire NFL with Demario Davis. Like, I think now when you talk about the Saints, like, it's Demario Davis and then full stop, right? But Demario Davis, Cameron Jordan. When I talk about people in the league in the front office, love Cameron Jordan, not only by his play, by his leadership, but what he does for the community, and who he is as a person. So, just Demario Davis and him, just by themselves, top notch. And then Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. He's in New Orleans, where he played college football at, and he's at the top of his game. We went over our top 10 safeties list and DBs list, and he was on mine. So, Honey Badger always been a favorite since college, returning kicks to intercepting footballs. The guy is unbelievable. So the fact that he's still impacting his community in a positive way and still impacting the game of football, wow, what a guy. And then you think about this too, going on the offensive side. You mentioned Jamal Williams. I have him as my sleeper, Jake. I realized we didn't talk about We didn't talk about sleepers for the Buccaneers. Mine is Sean Tucker, a Syracuse guy. I think he will be your preseason MVP. Sean Tucker will be, but I got Jamal Williams. Jake, you talked about him living in the end zone. He turned a corner. At first, when it came to Jamal Williams, I didn't really like him like that, Jake, because he was beefing with my guy Zaire on Hard Knocks. I don't know if you remember that, but Zaire Franklin, Jamal, they were going at it a little bit. And to be honest, it was really cool to see because both of those guys probably had the best seasons of their careers last year. So, I don't know if that's a telltale sign, but Jamal Williams playing running back behind Alvin Kamara. I love that 1-2 punch. So, let's see how they get things done. And then going back to Michael Thomas, Jake. I mean, when I was playing for the Buccaneers, it was Julio and Michael Thomas, and of course Mike Evans. Like, which one are you going to get? How's this going to look? And you think about it, Lattimore goes up against Thomas every day in practice, so they're only sharpening each other's toolkit. Same for the Buccaneers. You got Mike Evans and Carlton Davis, but you love to see those matchups. You love to see that caliber of talent. And look, I got Saints last because I don't like what Sean Payton said in the news, right? But at the end of the day, like, let's just keep it 100. Like, these guys can play ball, all right? Going back to the Rams days when they had that when not Bradley Roby, but our guy Roby had that interference call, right? Like,
Roby Coleman.
Coleman, yeah. The Saints have always been a good ball team, a good ball club. But yeah, Jake, it's a little love-hate for me, my man. It's a little love-hate for me. And this is something that I can't get over, to be honest, until ever. So I got the Saints last, but I do know if we were to start putting money down or fantasy football betting, whatever you want to call it, the Saints would be high up on my list if we're actually getting down to the nitty-gritty. So, and then Taysom Hill. Sorry, Jake, really, really quick. Taysom Hill. I'd be remiss not to talk about the Saints and not bring up Taysom Hill, what he brings to the game of football. We talked about this before, Jake. He blocked a punt. I was on the punt team. He blocked a punt. He went and threw a touchdown. He ran a touchdown. He kickoff return. So the Saints, they have some good football players over there. So Taysom Hill, shout out. Respect, my man.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, there is no love for me towards Sean Payton. But it's important to kind of separate them. I get that.
Respect, it's respect.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, I have them too, and I have no issue, nothing against them whatsoever. I mean, if their fans want to have any issues with the Rams, like, by all means, like, whatever. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, they're fans and they like their team, and if their team gets robbed, if they feel that way or whatever. That's all them.
And I got one more thing to say about the Saints. The Saints fans from my time playing, Jake, nicest fans that I've met. My parents met as well, right? Like my fiance, my dad, they would go to the games. They're like, dude, the Saints fans are so nice. Like, even we played Tulane when I was at Syracuse. Those fans in the New Orleans area are the best. The stadium was one of the loudest stadiums I've ever been in. So, like I said, I'm throwing a little shade, Jake. I put them at fourth, but like, in my heart of hearts, got a lot of love for them. They're actually the last team that I worked out for before I retired. So, I got them fourth still. I got them fourth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's like, 2 through 4, I feel like it's going to be kind of a toss-up. Yeah. So, like, next up, like, I have the Falcons at 3. You have them at 2. I mean, here's my deal with the Falcons, okay? I think that Desmond Ridder, like, he's going to be the starter. And I know you like Taylor Heineke. They also have Logan Woodside. I think Desmond Ridder is going to be the guy. And I think Bijan Robinson, drafting him, not entertaining any of the quarterbacks at any of the rounds, really spoke volumes to me. Like, they feel like they have their guy in Desmond Ridder. I think Arthur Smith really likes him. They go out and get your guy, Matt Bergeron. He's going to be playing guard, and he is going to be a effing menace at guard. Because here's the thing. There's no learning. He's going to do his thing. Like, at tackle, you got to worry about the NFL speed and everything. I think he's just going to be a monster at guard.
Yeah.
He's
a monster offensive line at the Falcons. They have great players around them. They're going to build them up, so it's going to be great for him.
Oh, It's insane. I mean, Jake Matthews, Drew Dahlman, Chris Lindstrom, Caleb McGarry. That's not even including like behind them. They still have Jalen Mayfield, who they drafted in the 3rd round of 2021. They have Matt Hennessy. These are guys behind. So, really good stuff there. Scotty Miller is going to be in that wide receiver room. They went out and got him. Mac Hollins looks yoked, man.
Yeah,
have you seen him?
Yeah,
good
looking like
God.
a defensive end. Yeah.
Mac Hollins.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go on record and say Mac Hollins is my sleeper.
Okay. All right.
I like because I know, like, don't get me wrong, they got some guys I like Kadarius Hodge, right? And obviously Drake London's Drake London, but Mac Hollins could end up having like 800, 900 yards this year, and it wouldn't shock me. Like, honestly,
the way he's looking, it's like, just throw him the ball. I mean, this guy's he's gonna punch somebody on the way and he's gonna catch it. Like, we get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've liked him. I feel like he's got a skill set. He definitely, when you look at him coming out of, Vegas last year, like, he's 29 years old. He's still in his prime. He's 6'4", 221. What I see them doing is they're going out and getting guys. Desmond Ridder is not pinpoint accurate, and that's okay. Most quarterbacks are not. He's generally accurate. So the genius of Arthur Smith and co. is that they realize, look, he is generally accurate. I'm going to go and get some freaking stilts, and they're going to go and get that football and bring it down. And that is what Drake London and Mac Hollins are going to be. Then you have guys like Kadarius Hodge, Scotty Miller, Frank Darby, Penny Hart that can work out of the slot. And, don't forget, they have freaking Kyle Pitts. They also got Jonnu Smith. I know Jonnu Smith had a bad run with the Patriots. He is not that guy, okay? He is a lot better than that. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. He's a lot better than that. And so I think, especially Kyle Pitts, too. And so I think having those two as a tandem, I think we're going to see more this year, Cam. I think you've talked about it. I've mentioned it. We're going to see more 12 personnel groupings. Yeah. And I think we're going to see those 2 tight end sets with Jonnu and Kyle Pitts. And don't get me wrong, they can put Kyle Pitts in the slot. They can put him out wide. Kyle Pitts is him, okay? He had a bad year last year, down year, whatever. He's still my guy. I still believe in Kyle Pitts. He had 1,000 yards at the hardest position in the NFL to play as a rookie.
Brutal. And they're not running the ball to Kyle Pitts. So if you're on the defense playing the Falcons, just know that they're running the ball away from Kyle Pitts. They're going to be passing the ball where Kyle Pitts is. So that's just defense 101 because he's that damn good.
Exactly. And here's the thing, Cam. So they almost had either he did have 1,000 or he almost had 1,000. Tyler Algier last year, 5th rounder out of BYU. They have Cordero Patterson. Okay, Tyler Algier almost gets 1,000 yards, or he had it. I don't have the numbers in front of me at the moment. He and Bijan Robinson can work as runners. They can work in the passing game. This offense is loaded around Desmond Ridder, and if Ridder doesn't cut it, I absolutely agree with you. Taylor Heineke can step right in there, and he's got a lot of stuff to work with. But I think Ridder's going to be okay.
Yep.
I got a full season.
I got Heineke's my sleeper, Jake. I'm just going ahead and say it right now.
I know that.
I mean, he's the only one. I mean, not the only one, but he gave the Buccaneers a fit when he was at Washington. So, I mean, my guy's a dog. He's back home. I got him as my sleeper.
And then their defense, Cam.
Yeah.
They go out. You mentioned Calais Campbell earlier. Off air, we were talking about something else.
Yeah.
Calais Campbell, they go out and get him. David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett is still a stud. Bud Dupree, I loved that pickup.
Yeah, that's like that should be a sleeper in itself. Like, wait, y'all got Bud over there? Bud Dupree? Like, that's next level.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long ago where we're like, Bud Dupree is one of the best pass rushers in the league. He's like, among the league leaders in sacks, and then he had kind of a down year after leaving the Steelers, and I don't know. And then they go out and they get Zach Harrison out of Ohio State, 3rd round this past year, right? Mm-hmm. And then you look at it and you're like, okay, Caden Ellis coming off. Dude, Caden Ellis' season with the New Orleans Saints is not talked about. That is a hell of a pickup. I'm actually going to change Mac Hollins to Caden Ellis.
Okay.
Because Mac Hollins, Mac Hollins is yoked, and that's all I keep seeing. So I don't know how much of a sleeper he's going to be. By the time the season starts, people are just going to think he's Captain America. Yeah. But Caden Ellis is somebody, like, if you didn't watch his tape last year, he's a very good linebacker. Who's probably going to be playing on the weak side. really like what they have there because with the Falcons, it's like they have Kaden Ellis, who they got from their rival Saints, who we just talked about. Michael Walker can kind of do it all. He's really intriguing. We saw it. I think he had an interception in the Rams game last year. And then, Lorenzo Carter and Troy Anderson, a second rounder out of Montana State. I love their linebacker room, Cam. You're a linebacker yourself. I'm sure you like it as well. Mm-hmm. They also have, D'Angelo Malone, a guy I loved coming out of, Western Kentucky. And then they have Arnold Ebiketie, who was a second rounder in 2022. We haven't even talked about the secondary. And the secondary got a lot better, Cam. Jeff Okudah, another team's trash, is another team's treasure. Let me just tell you right now. I don't think Jeff Okudah is trash, Cam. I don't. A.J. Terrell, a little bit of a down year last year, still a stud corner. You look at Richie Grant. And, a second rounder in 2021. Jalen Hawkins is a guy I really liked out of Cal. And then Jesse Bates. They went out and signed Jesse Bates, Cam. That was a big marquee signing. This Falcons team has talent all over the damn place. And what's most important here is that in the trenches, the inside out, they're built.
Built for tough. They're built for tough.
Built for tough.
Did you have the Falcons at second or third? Which one did you have them at?
I had them at third. The Saints I had at second.
Okay.
But I would very much consider switching.
Oh, okay. Maybe we can convince you here, Jake. I think the way Bijan Robinson is mixing people up in practice, I know this is training camp. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, getting a little excited about this stuff, but
it's not just you, man. He's going top 5 in fantasy drafts. Top 5.
Top 5. I mean, imagine, and then you think about Cordell. You mentioned Cordell Patterson right behind him. I mean, Patterson was like a wide receiver. He was a kick returner, and now they got him at run. I mean, Jake, running back. He's doing everything on the offense. And I think they have an elite backfield in those two. And then we talked about the tight end position. We talked about the wide receiver position. I think these quarterbacks can have some options to throw to the offensive line. And we talked about the offensive line, Jake. We ranked the offensive lines, and I think the Falcons were maybe like top 6, top 7, or top 8 and especially in the run game. So they added Bergeron, they added Bijan Robinson. They're only going to get better. They're only going to get better and better. So really, it's just like, hey, when you throw the football, catch the football, score some touchdowns, make sure your quarterbacks are healthy. And that's my thing, Jake, is I know I have Heineke as my sleeper, but like I said, I have a feeling is when we're talking about football teams, we need to talk about their backups. We need to show them a little bit more love because, as you know, week 1, week 2, even preseason comes along, and we're finding out who they are anyway. So it's really important to highlight those folks, and I'm going to do it. Taylor Heineke is my sleeper. The Falcons, Jake, they're not going to be number 1, but I feel like they're going to be number 2. Like you said, they're going to be fighting for those positions. 2, 3, and 4 positions are up in the air, but this division overall, I'm not sure how strong it's going to be. I know we've had some other divisional previews. It's an okay division, right? We talked about the Buccaneers a little bit earlier, the Saints. It's like no one we're really, really excited about, but I do think the next team we're going to be talking about, we're going to be excited about them. But Falcons, I got them as number 2. Got them as number 2 in the division.
I think I'm going to bump them up to number 2 as well. I think, I'm going to move the Saints down to 3. By the way, Algier did have 1,000 yards last year.
There you go.
It just
got weapons.
I mean, it's just insane. I think people are just like, and this is another thing. Desmond Ridder was my number 1 quarterback in that draft. I believed in Desmond Ridder. I still do. And I think the biggest hang up for people with the Falcons is Desmond Ridder. And if that's not a hang up for me, I'm looking at everything they added from, Kaden Ellis and Calais Campbell to Bijan Robinson, Mac Hollins, and just the little, guys here and there. Matt Bergeron in the trenches. I'm going to say the Falcons are number 2.
Yeah.
I'm going to roll with that. But that means our number 1, our joint number 1, is a team that you and I are very, very excited about because not just from a player standpoint, and we're very excited in that regard. They have Frank Reich, who I already like as a head coach.
Yeah.
They have Thomas Brown, who that's our OC.
From the Rams.
We've been pounding the stump for him.
Yeah.
Very happy for him. Ajiro Evero also was with the Rams.
Yeah.
He was defensive coordinator last year in Denver.
Yeah.
He comes over. He's a defensive coordinator with the Panthers. And Chris Tabor for the special teams coordinator. They have so many guys. I mean,
these are coaches, Jake, by the way, too. Like, people don't realize, like, that's what makes teams great. We talked about the Jaguars last week. Doug Peterson. Like, the coaches have to be excellent for the teams to do well. And that's just a full stop. That's a full stop.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You know, I think really what it comes down to is, you know, the coaching staff is a sign that Frank Reich is a well-respected guy in the industry.
Yeah.
But he's also the right guy. You have guys that are, you know, just buying into him. Thomas Brown, a young gun, a guy who's barely been in the NFL. He was with the Rams for like 3 years after predominantly being in the SEC and, you know, as a position coach. And now here he is buying in. You know, you have Parks Frazier, a younger guy, passing game coordinator. Josh McCown decided, look, I'm going to get into coaching with Frank Reich, you know, and so Deuce Staley is another guy that's been constantly brought up as like a potential down the road. Can he be a head coach? We know what he could do running the football. We watched him run the football, but Deuce Staley is the assistant head coach and running backs coach. Dom Capers, so you go with an old school guy, a guy who's had a lot of experience in this league. He signs on. Jonathan Cooley comes over from the Rams as the secondary cornerbacks coach. D'Angelo Hall, we know what he can do in the NFL. Well, now he's going to come over and he's going to coach. So it's just, there's a bunch of these guys that you feel really good about. Jim Caldwell's another one, senior assistant there. I feel really good about this team and just the coaching staff right off the rip. What Frank Reich has put together, put in place. Coaching, and I said this the other day in my live stream, Cam, coaching matters more in the NFL than it does in the MLB, the NHL, and the NBA. I'll say it over and over again. Head coaches mean more than managers in the MLB, more than coaches in hockey, and more than the head coach in basketball. But position coaches are so important. Coordinators, like, that's the thing. And so if you don't have a coaching staff and you have a lot of players, you don't really have anything, do you?
No.
You know?
You got a lot of players on the field.
Staff.
You got 22 guys on the field. Like, come on.
You got 22 guys. You got 11 guys, on coming from your side of the sideline, and they don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So SOL. So I love this because the coaching staff who I just rattled off, I mean, it's a pretty marquee coaching staff with a lot of big names.
Yeah.
So then you look at the offense, and you're like, Bryce Young. But if Bryce Young doesn't work out, they still have Andy Dalton. And I don't love Andy Dalton. As you know, I'm not an Andy Dalton homer, but Andy Dalton is serviceable. And he can win you games if, you have guys like DJ Chark and Adam Thielen, which they do have.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's being talked about enough. You go out, you get DJ Chark from Detroit in the offseason. You go out and you get Adam Thielen. Thielen is one of the best route runners in all of football.
Yeah.
And then you have Terrace Marshall, who's a second rounder from 2021 that you don't want to give up on. You're like, you know what? We have better coaches than we did with Matt Rule. And so now this is the grandest thing about it is you have guys like Shi Smith who were drafted in that same draft. You have guys like Terrace Marshall who maybe you would have gotten rid of in the past, but you're like, these coaches can go under the hood. They can see what they have and like, oh shit, I'm not getting rid of those two. We're going to coach those guys up. They have talent. Then you go out and get Jonathan Mingo in the second round, who you are very high on.
Yes.
Laviska Shenault, they made a trade for last year, which I really liked. They got an offensive line with Brady Christensen, Bradley Bozeman, Austin Corbett, who you and I love, Taylor Moton, and Ike Ekwonu, who was a top, pick in the first round in 2022. And then they got Bryce Young, but on top of that, in this whole realm that running backs don't matter, well, the Panthers don't look at it that way because while they do have Chuba Hubbard and they did lose Dante Foreman, he went on to the Bears. They went out and they signed Miles Sanders, who just played in the Super Bowl. I don't have to tell you how valuable he is.
Yeah.
They got Hayden Hurst, who's a veteran, a leader in that tight end room for the younger guys. And then the defense, there's guys all over the place from J.C. Horn, and you have guys like Shaq Thompson in the interior, in the the linebacker room with Frankie Louvu, who's underrated. And then in addition to that, Cam, it's like you got guys like Derek Brown, who are just so underrated in the trenches. You got Yetur Gross-Matos, who hopefully they can get the most out of him with the coaching staff. And then you got Brian frickin' Burns, who, I mean, let's be honest here, Brian Burns, you and I mean, we believe he's one of the best pass rushers in all of football. And then, you go in the secondary, you got Jeremy Chin, you got Von Bell, Xavier Woods, Dante Jackson, and you can't forget, well, as I mentioned previously, J.C. Horn, but you can't forget about C.J. Henderson, who they also went out and traded for. That is twice, by the way, that they traded for two guys from the same team in Jacksonville. And once again, it's another team's trash, it's another team's treasure. And I feel like this coaching staff is going to get the most out of these guys, where in the past, we might move on from him because we have a new regime.
New regime, excuse me, new regime. And you talk about, we're really excited about this coaching staff. It's extremely important. You think about Bill Belichick. Think about how many head coaches he's had on his team that were just assistants at the time, right? You listed off all these coaches for the Panthers and Frank Reich. He's going to be developing head coaches. And I do think after this year, maybe 2 to 3 years, we're going to be finding a lot of head coaches coming from this team. Think about the 49ers. Think about how many head coaches come from that team. So I do think if D'Angelo Hall is a head coach one day, you'll say it's because he was on this team as well. But I love that. I think we talked about this on our Bleav in Rams show. The Bleav in Rams, Sean McVay, he is a master of creating great coaches as well. Some of them are on this team as well, but they have to be the foundation for the football team. They have to be the roof for the home of that team, because the players, they can get hurt, but the coaches, they got to show up every day, Jake. And so when you have that next player to step up and play quarterback, if it's Dalton, like I said, we don't want Dalton, but the coaches have to be good enough to play with what they have or use with what they have. So coaches are really important. Jake, I want to talk about my sleeper here a little bit. Hayden Hurst. I mean, you just talked about how valuable he is, Jake, not only as a football player, but also off the field. When he had his special about mental health, and like a couple of years ago, mental health, like really like during the pandemic, kind of when it was starting to get popular, but he was already out front with it. He knows what he wants off the field. And I think that's going to help young guys like Bryce, who's going to be throwing him the football, to be able to step into himself and say, hey, like, I know this is who I am on the field, but off the field, what does that look like? And so I really like that. And you also talked about Thielen. Jake, I mean, let's think about Stephon Diggs, right? Think about how Stephon Diggs, how he's progressed in his career. When he was at the Vikings, guess who was coaching him up every day to be the player he is? It was Thielen. Like, Thielen may not be the type of athlete that Diggs is, because the Diggs brothers, they're insane, but he had to get coached from somewhere, and that's coming from Adam Thielen. So to see Mingo go to the Panthers, he's going to get coached up in a similar fashion. I was just reading something the other day, but it was saying that how Mingo has this skill set that's just intangible, right? No one can really touch it. It's just he has it in his back pocket, and the fact that Thielen is able to craft that's just a blessing. So I'm going to love to see where this Panther team goes, Jake, and in the playoffs. Like, how dangerous will they be in the playoffs with this coaching staff? I think they will be. Bryce is going to have to stay healthy. I think that's our biggest thing. We saw a video of Bryce sitting next to his offensive lineman, and he looked like a little kid, which is okay. This division is not foreign to quarterbacks who look like kids with their offensive linemen, right? You got Hall of Fame quarterbacks that used to play for the Saints, Drew Brees, who's probably the same height, maybe even shorter than Bryce Young, and he's found success. But Bryce is going to have to stay healthy, Jake. If I'm the coaching staff for the Panthers, I'm like, hey guys, we have a chance to make a run, offensive line and running backs. Take care of Bryce. Like, please, if you don't do anything else, take care of Bryce. And then Burns, if you're on the defensive side, get the football back for him, right? So this Panthers team looking healthy. But like I said, this division isn't great, though, Jake. This division isn't great, but the Panthers, I think, have the best chance because, frankly, they have the best coaches. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I believe Bryce is one of those, rookie quarterbacks who we'll be looking at like, oh, we knew he was just going to work out,
Yeah.
He played in the SEC. he didn't have a ton of weapons at Alabama this past year. Don't listen to the noise. Alabama gets 5-star recruits left and right. What do you mean he didn't have any weapons? A lot of those guys are already in the NFL. So, I mean, it's not to say that he never had weapons, but for the most part, it was Jahmyr Gibbs. If you go back and you watch, it's like Jahmyr Gibbs was the engine of that offense. And it's like Bryce was asked to do things outside of structure, inside of structure. I don't have a worry about him going to like a quarterback mind like Reich. And the reason, and I'll push back on like a little bit because people will say, well, Frank Reich was terrible with the Colts. First off, no, he wasn't. Second off, I don't think he should have been fired. And third off, even if he was, let's just say for a second, let's entertain he's terrible, right? He's going to have so many guys around him. He's already failed. He's basically falling forward. Yeah. He failed as a head coach, and now he's going to be able to learn from the mistakes he made. And you already know he learned from it because look at his coaching staff. It is way better than the last time he was coaching. So I'm very excited to see that, and I think this Panthers team has a shot in what is a weak conference. The NFC is weak. So if the Panthers, if they get rolling, and he ends up being a prodigy, we're talking about Bryce Young, I mean, they could be a serious, wicked serious problem. They traded up, mind you, from the top of the top 10 to go all the way up to number 1 with the Bears and get him. Yeah. And so I think a lot of what we're going to see, and we're going to talk about the Bears. Obviously, a lot of Bears fans watch the show. Yeah. We're going to see a lot of comparisons. Like, is this because the Bears passed up a lot of guys here. Yeah. They passed up Anthony Richardson. They passed up Bryce Young. They passed up C.J. Stroud. They went all in on Justin Fields. So there's going to be a lot of comparisons, unfair and fair, I would say. And I think Bryce Young is a better thrower of the football. I do.
Bryce Young, I'm not going to lie, seeing him at Alabama make plays when his head's about to get snatched off and like score touchdowns is kind of unbelievable. I think what really makes him number 1 overall is his will to win, like his professional manner, the way he steps up to the plate every day. So I do hope, like I said, Jake, I'm just hoping he stays healthy. I don't want to see another Tua situation where you get slammed on your neck. Like that's just what worries me a little bit. But at the end of the day, this is a game of football. Like you said, he's played at Alabama. Unfortunately, he's had to go up against UGA, who has absolute dogs and like Stetson Bennett, right? Like you're seeing him. I'm seeing clips of him, Jake, and he's throwing dimes, he's throwing touchdowns, and he's someone not to be slept on either. So I think if at anything, you play quarterback in the SEC, I know Will Levis would give him some smoke, but you're going to be well off in the NFL. I think you're going to do quite well. Kyle Trask, he's a little bit different story, but I do think Bryce Young, he's going to be all right. He has great backup behind him. And yeah, man, let's see how the chips fall. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest takeaway from this, I think compared to our other previews, is having a great coaching staff. That's the end all be all. You think about the Eagles, you think about some of those other teams, is they just have the best coaches in the room. So that's why I think the Houston Texans are going to be a problem. We talked about that last week, but I think they're going to be a problem because they got DeMeco Ryans up there.
I agree with you. I think coaching is everything, but you also have to have the players, and I think the Panthers just have a nice balance. And I think I'm really excited to see those other guys, see if they can develop with this new coaching staff, because they're going to work with them, like I said, and if they don't make the team, they don't make the team. Yep. But they're going to give these guys an ample shot to make the roster, and that's exciting to me. The Panthers are the team, man, like, in 3 years, who knows what they'll be? You know what I mean? Like, I really think Bryce Young's going to work out. But speaking of somebody who did work out, a special happy birthday to Hall of Fame cornerback, primetime Deion Sanders. Yeah. He turns 56 today. So happy birthday to Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders, primetime. It's really cool, Jake, to see him reinvent himself and to still be excellent. I know he's at Colorado. We'll see how many games he wins, but it's really cool to see him progress, his sons, his family. And Jake, I know, happy birthday, Deion, but I want to go back to the Panthers really quick. One of their X factors, Johnny Hekker, one of the best punters in the league, played with them at the Rams, and he's a baller. He played quarterback in high school. He can play quarterback in the NFL as well. He's probably your third string quarterback, really, but Johnny Hecker's going to be the X factor. Then again, happy birthday, Deion.
Well, yeah, you heard it first. I mean, yeah, I love Hecker. He's one of the best punters of all time, and obviously what he did for the Rams. But yeah, it just feels like that's going to be a fun team to be around, be on, and yeah, we'll be. We'll find out. I mean, that's the fun thing about the NFL season. You think something is this obvious to happen, and then all of a sudden this happens. It's like, whoa, So we don't know. Yep. But that's going to do it. So next time you will see us, we'll be doing the AFC North, and we'll wrap up with the NFC North. But again, thank you guys. You can follow Cameron Lynch at Cameron Lynch 50 on Twitter. You can follow me at JK Bogan and the show at Off the Edge Show. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next time. Later, folks.